My name is Kara Burke, a pharmacist in the Division of Drug Information. I would like to welcome you to this educational activity sponsored by the FDA Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, Office of Communications, Division of Drug Information. Today's webinar is titled FDA Drug Topics, Reporting and Public Viewing of Individual Case Safety Reports, or ICSRs. Before I introduce our speaker, I have a few housekeeping remarks. All speakers are expected to use generic names. If trade names are used, those of several companies should be used rather than only that of a single company. Unapproved use disclosure. Speakers attest that the content they contribute is supported by the best available knowledge or evidence and are reminded to disclose when products or procedures being discussed are off-label, unlabeled, or not FDA approved, and any limitations on the information that is presented. Disclosure. The faculties, planning committee members, and the FDA CE consultation and accreditation team have nothing to disclose. All inquiries for information relating to our webinars should be directed to ddI-webinars@fda.hhs.gov. We hope you will enjoy meeting our speaker today. Mr. Suranjan Day is the Deputy Director of CDER's Office of Surveillance and Epidemiology, Regulatory Science staff at FDA. He provides expert advice and technical direction on regulatory science for developing new tools, standards, and approaches to assess the safety, efficacy, quality, and performance of all FDA-regulated products. He has over 24 years of experience with the FDA, the National Institutes of Health, and in the pharmaceutical industry. He's responsible for the management of the FDA Adverse Event Reporting System, also known as FAERS. His work also includes innovation and research in the area of artificial intelligence, data analytics, process automation, and data science. He received a master's degree in computer science from the Institute for Technology and Management in India and a master's in business administration from the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, please give a warm online welcome to Mr. Day.
Good afternoon. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Suranjan Day, Deputy Director for Regulatory Science in CDER, Center for Office of Surveillance and Epidemiology. So here's my disclaimer slide. It's nothing to, everything is, what I'm presenting is no copyright. All right, what is our learning objectives today? So we've described the reporting of ICSRs to the FDA. We will discuss data quality issues in FAERS, so it'll help in the reporting of better quality data. And then we learn on how to view this data that is being submitted both by the consumer, healthcare professional, and the manufacturers by going through a live demo of the FAERS public dashboard. Okay. All right, so let's go into the first topic, describing the reporting of ICSRs to FDA. Okay, so the Adverse Event Reporting System, FAERS. So this is the database that FDA has that contains spontaneous adverse event reports that are submitted to the FDA. And they are submitted by either by manufacturers or directly from consumers or healthcare professional or any other reporters. And this database includes, it's a safety surveillance data program for drugs and therapeutic biologic products. This database consists of more than 24 million reports from 1969 to this March of 2022. And each year, FDA receives about little more than 2 million adverse event reports on adverse event and medication errors associated with the drugs. All right. So the FAERS system. So what is the FAERS system? It's, as I said, it's a post-marketing safety surveillance database. for drugs and therapeutic biologic. FDA uses this FAERS data to monitor, identify, and analyze adverse events and medication errors. And FDA staff in both CDER and CBER regularly examine the FAERS data as part of the routine safety monitoring. And any safety signal that is identified for the FAERS data is then taken for further evaluation. Right. So how does this data get into FDA? So we have patients, consumers, or healthcare professionals. They submit this data. Reporting is voluntary in nature. And if they have submitted directly to the FDA, then that's basically called as direct reports, which is directly coming from the healthcare professionals and consumers. They go through the MedWatch program, and I will explain to you what are the methods of submitting. And then the other method here is that they're submitted to the manufacturers, and then the manufacturers in turn then submit this information because of the regulations to FDA. This reporting, if you look at the percentages, we about get 96% of the reports from manufacturers and about 4% of the reports from consumers, healthcare professionals, which are direct reports. So of the little more than 2 million reports, here is the percentage that is divided here. All right. What kind of reports do we receive? So the reports that come into FAERS are medication error reports. We have adverse events and product complaint or product problems that has resulted in an adverse event, and they are for drugs and therapeutic biologics. And also for the CBER side, they also have tissue products and therapeutic blood products. Let's now talk about the source of these reports. So adverse event reporting is voluntary process for healthcare professionals in the US. And healthcare professionals and consumers may send reports to manufacturers or directly to FDA, spontaneous reporting. Manufacturers are then required to forward these reports, and then manufacturers have additional reporting requirements. Direct reports, as we said. So direct reports are submitted directly to FDA through the MedWatch program by internet, which is we have the online reporting form. We have the mail, which can be mailed, the MedWatch form. 3500 is for healthcare professionals, 3500B is for the consumers. It can be faxed, the MedWatch form, or you call that 800 number and report an adverse event report. So if you look at the reporting of MedWatch Online, so MedWatch Online is the online voluntary reporting form. You can go to MedWatch, and then you have the healthcare professional option there, which you click on that, will then get you a form, which you can then fill in the form and hit on submit. If needed, you can keep a copy of that form, and that report will then directly come into our FAERS system. So the MedWatch voluntary form report, which is for online reporting, looks something like this. So you have different sections: patients, problem, product, device, reporter, and so on. And then you finally review, and then you submit to the FDA. The other method is the MedWatch form itself, a PDF form, which you can download. You can also, it's a fillable form. You can fill it in, but then you can mail it or fax it. So which means you have to print it out and then mail it or fax it. So, but the form is actually fillable. And the form looks like this. The MedWatch Online actually has all these sections in that form. right? So finally, to just get to what gets entered in FAERS, so you have the manufacturers who submit all their electronic submission, which is the 15-day expedited reports, non-serious expedited, and non-serious and non-expedited reports for newer products. Electronic submission, what these manufacturers do are based on a standard, which is by an organization called ICH, stands for International Council of Harmonization. When it comes to paper submission, we get the 3500 and the 3500B, which is B is a voluntary form. And then, of course, direct to FDA are all reports received via MedWatch Online, or fax or mail, which is again by consumers and healthcare professionals who are submitting these 3500, 3500Bs. All right, so let's see what's the volume. So, and this is the volume of last 10 years. If you see, you see that growth. We have in 2021, we had 2.33 million reports. Of course, most of the reports which are in that red are these expedited reports coming from manufacturers, which of course the consumers and the healthcare professionals are reporting to them. You have the non-expedited reports, which means they are not expedited, meaning that expedited are serious and unlabeled events. And so the non-expedited would be, serious and labeled or non-serious and labeled type of events. And then you have the direct reports, which are coming directly to FDA. So let's now look into what happens when this report comes to FDA, right? So how these reports are processed. So we have the submitters who are let's say the manufacturers who are submitting electronically, which we also call it as electronic submission, or we have also a portal which is called the safety reporting portals, in short SRP, where the manufacturer can go and submit this report, and this report gets into FAERS for case processing. On the other side, we have the submitter, we also have the consumers and healthcare professionals. They can submit fax, mail, online. When they submit, first thing we do is we do the intake and triage of this. And the reason why intake and triage is done for the consumers and healthcare submitted report and not the manufacturers is because when the consumer is submitting, we can get any kind of products. It could be a food product, a device product, a drug product, biologic product, tobacco product. So triaging has to be done. So though we register every report, we still have to triage them, and based on what product it is, the report is then sent to the appropriate center. So when the arrow that says other FDA centers, let's say there was a device product, so it will go to the device center. If it's a tobacco product, we'll go to the tobacco center, right? But then you have the reports that needs to go into FAERS, which is drug, therapeutic, biologics, and you have the blood products and tissues. So they will then go into what we call as a case processing workflow. That's where the full data entry is done for that report based on the source document that we have. And then we look into the product, and if the product's manufacturer's name is provided by the reporter, we will code them. And the reason we code them to a dictionary that we have internally so that all the product names are consistent, and searching then becomes easier for our reviewers. Finally, these reports have a narrative story. And so for reading that story, we have pharmacists who are actually reading those stories, extracting out the actual event, the adverse event that has occurred, and then we code that adverse event to a dictionary called MEDRA. So now you have the products and the events that are coded to a dictionary, so that when we do our searching and looking for signals, it becomes very consistent and don't have very many variations of different names. And finally, once these reports are complete processing, that's where it goes to the data analytics and data mining. And of course, this data is also a redacted part of this data is posted publicly on the FAERS dashboard, or a quarterly extracts, or through OpenFDA, or you can do a FOIA request. This is Freedom of Information Act request. Okay. Now, what are the factors that are impacting these reports? So here are some examples of factors that affect spontaneous reporting, both from consumers and healthcare professionals. These include media attention. So sometime in 2010, much publicity was devoted to a specific product and cardiovascular risk. And following discussions and media attention of an FDA advisory committee, FDA saw an increased reporting of these events. Litigation, many commercial advertise law office to help, they help patients who may have suffered an adverse event, and so we may find, reporting, volume of reports coming because of those litigation reasons. And then the seriousness of adverse event, the drug product, and the indication also can affect whether and how often an event is reported. There are typically fewer reports for over-the-counter medication. Then the number of reported adverse event for a drug usually raises during the first few years of marketing, and then typically declines despite increase in prescribing rates. Then the quality of manufacturer surveillance system may also impact reporting. Large companies have resources to follow up and engage with reporters, but smaller and newer companies may lack these resources. And then finally, regulation affect reporting, particularly in terms of what the manufacturers are required to submit to FDA. All right. So with that, we will discuss a little bit about the quality of these reports, and hopefully that can help, folks who are reporting, put a little focus on, what reports and the quality of the data that they're reporting. So issues with a reported suspect product, and we give some recommendation, and then there's other data issues which we will cover in this particular topic. So we do have a dictionary in which we validate all our products. We have what we call as the substance registration system. It's a public database at the National Library of Medicine. It's available to everyone. We also have product names that the manufacturer's label has, and that when they submit their final label, that's the product name we utilize. And for foreign products, we actually use what we call as a WHO drug dictionary. I'm just saying this just because, you just know that how we are reporting, how we are coding this product names. So some examples here where two products reported as one multi-ingredient product, which does not exist as a single formulation. So here is some product names that we have here, and we recommend to separate, the suspect products, and that they do not exist as a single multi-ingredient formulation. So this can be reported as, if it was two different ingredients, then it is reported as two different products. So another one is two product names reported for the first suspect products in the MedWatch form. So you have product X and product Y, and the recommendation is, as you see on the screen, where you have product X and product Y. But then if you had a multi-ingredient product, then you would report that as shown on the screen here, ingredient 1/ingredient 2. Another area that we have seen, some mismatch that happens is the narrative. So in the narrative, when the story is told, we have some product name there, but when the actual product name is put on that product field in the MedWatch form, we do see variations there. So, and then we also recommend that the report the product name as mentioned in the label. Okay. Then non-unique product names with different active ingredients. So in such case, if you see here as Acidex and IC Hot, So the recommendation is that because it could have different ingredient for the same product name, it's not unique. So we recommend that with the product name, you in parentheses submit the active ingredient name. So that way, then it's easy for us to identify which product the reporter is actually talking about. Okay. Some other data issues that we recommend that to look at when reporting. So demographic information. So we do see demographic information in the narrative. So it would say the patient, a male with so and this age, but then when you look at the structured data elements, they are empty. And it's sometimes it's not most of the time it's having the structured data field is much easier to then search for, query for, do our analytics and so on. Demographic information, incomplete or off limits. So for example, age is there, which say 50, but doesn't say it's years or months or days or, the unit. Or sometimes they're off limit. I mean, the age would say 150 years old. So in that case, the reporter may have wanted to put, 15 years or 50 years but we do see some off limit demographic information. Sometimes we have seen reports submitted having information with low value. When it comes to low value, what an example that I would give you is the patient missed a dose. Okay, that's the only information that we have in the narrative. That doesn't give us much information about why the patient missed a dose and what happened, because that could be a case of a medication error because of certain reasons the patient missed a dose. So those reports are actually of low value, and so we recommend that the better details that we get in the narrative, it's better for us to do the signal identification and assessment. Sometimes information is not presented correctly via the structured data elements. For example, we have a field called abated and reappeared. It kind of tells you in the narrative, the story, the patient took the drug, and the adverse event showed up, the patient stopped the drug, the adverse event went away. I mean, that can be also, indicated through the structured field like the abated and reappeared. Outcome inappropriately documented. Sometimes in the narrative, you would see that the patient was seriously injured and was hospitalized or life-threatening event, but then you look at the outcome in the report, they are not marked. And so it kind of also, these reports, if they are not marked, the outcomes, they are considered non-serious because none of the serious outcomes are marked. Of course, then when these reports are read, you find that, yes, it should have been marked. So it's important that if that outcome can be marked, that would be the recommendation. And then date mismatch. Sometimes we find the event date is prior to the therapy date. So those kind of examples that we do see in our report. So keeping these in mind will help us to better evaluate reports. All right, so with that, we go into the third learning objective. This is where we learn how to view this data. So now that we got this data, we talked a little bit about the data quality issues. Next is that let's see how you all can view this data that the FDA gets. Now, again, remember this data is redacted. So a lot of information that deals with personal identifiable information is not posted on the public dashboard. So the topics that we'll cover here, we'll describe the FAERS public database, what it is, and then we will demonstrate how to view adverse event reporting metrics. And then with this whole pandemic with COVID-19, we do have a dashboard within the main public dashboard called the COVID-19 EUA products for COVID-19 EUA products, which is specifically on the EUA products. The way that dashboard works, is the same way the main dashboard also works. So when we go into that, we will see. But there are a few things that are important to keep in mind when you are looking at the data on this dashboard. And we talk about that. So what is the FAERS public dashboard? So this is a user-friendly platform, and it's easily accessible and it's transparent, and it's very easy to use. You could look at the volume of reports that the FDA is getting. You can look at specific products and events, or a specific event and their cases. And this is very interactive application. So can be used by anyone, and really no much training is required. Now we also have that data that can be taken for other research purposes. So that is the OpenFDA, where somebody can download JSON files, or you have the quarterly data extract, which is text or XML files. So some key points to consider when you are reviewing this dashboard. The first is data quality. As you know, we are getting this data from, and we talked about the quality. We're getting this data from consumers and healthcare professionals, and many a times we do see instances of duplicate reports. The reporter may have reported to the company, they may have reported to FDA, both. But both reports are just submitted. They are two individual reports in the system, and not every report contains all this information. Sometimes most of the company reports have better information because they do their due diligence and their follow-ups and so on and so forth. Existence of a report does not establish causation. So this is very important to note. So there is no certainty that a suspected drug caused an adverse event. This information that comes in these reports reflects the reporter's observation and opinions. Okay, the information in reports has not been verified. So many of these reports that come basically from consumers, they have not medically confirmed. This is what the reporter's observation and opinions are that they have reported, they have submitted. So then the rates of occurrence cannot be established with these reports. So the number of adverse event reports should not be used to determine the likelihood of side effect occurring, right? So, and there are factors such as the time a product has been marketed, and publicity can influence reporting. So, okay, this is typically for consumers who are looking at this website or this dashboard, that just looking at these numbers and so on. Please do not stop or change your medication. Definitely talk to your doctor. And the patient outcomes received in FAERS. So sometimes a report could have more than one outcome. The patient was hospitalized and later the patient died. So in that case, both hospitalized and died flag may be checked. So you may find that when you're looking at the counts for an outcome, it could be counted at both places. So that needs to be kept in mind. And the finally more important thing is the FAERS data by themselves are not an indicator that the drug is causing the adverse event report. Very important to note. Okay. So with this, what we will do is we will go into the FAERS public dashboard directly. And let me open the dashboard. And I will share my screen. All right. So now into the FAERS public dashboard. So the disclaimer page, and most of the points that we need to consider are listed here. So this is a disclaimer. So I would read and accept. And this would now take me to the FAERS public dashboard, shows you the total number of reports so far that we have had. The last 10 years, so I took from 2021 to last 10 years, the slide that you saw was taken from here. Also, you can look at the last 10 years, and it'll give you this. We also have this particular page kind of gives you an idea on the volume of reports, looking at the direct reports. So what kind of direct reports is FDA receiving? If you click on that, it gives you all the direct reports that has been reported. I can always unfilter it. You can see reports by the reporter who is reporting, consumers, healthcare professionals, and others. From where these reports are coming from, which are domestic reports and foreign reports. The reports by seriousness, death, non-serious, serious reports. By age group, how many reports we are receiving by different age groups, and then by sex. So this is like a very overall, 40,000 feet view. Now, you can go into what we call as the COVID-19 EUA, which is a dashboard within the main one. And this actually only has reports related to, the EUA products for COVID-19. In here, it gives you the reports for last 3 years that we have had, 2020, 2021, 2022. Same type of metrics are also available here, which you can look by reporter type, reporter region, and so on and so forth. All right. And if you have an option also here to look at this report by a specific product. Now, since when I said this is interactive, you're looking at direct reports, you can click on just direct reports, gives you that. If you want to look at here with the year 2021, you can look at that. So as you click through, they can become filters and you start looking into the specifics. Now, when we go into search, it gives you a screen where you can search for the products. We are still in the COVID-19 EUA FAERS public dashboard. And if I, let's say, pick up specific a product and go to search, then I can see that how many cases were reported in 2020, 2021, 2022. I can also look at these by now the reactions. So it gives you the different reactions and the reports that were reported for a specific adverse reaction. You can also look at this report by product or generic name. In this case, it will be just one because we just selected one product. You can look at this by the different age group in which these reports were, for whom the reports were reported. You can look by sex and also by the reporter type who has been reporting. So mostly the healthcare professionals have been reporting on the EU products. So, and then you can look at the total cases, total serious cases, and so on and so forth. Now you can also group this by different reaction groups. So you want to say that these adverse event came up in which reaction groups, where, let's say, by, it can differentiate, it can stratify by age group for specific areas, which area that in the adverse reaction group. So it takes all the adverse reaction and groups it by investigations or general disorders and administration, respiratory, cardiac disorder, and so forth. You can also look this by sex and reporter type and reporter region, right? If you need to go and look at this particular report, you can right click, and if you want to expand this, you can expand this and look at it from larger screen. Next is that we have by the reactions. So which means under investigations, I have 2051 report. What are the events under that? So these were the different events under that, and that would basically add up into those those total number of cases. I can look at it by received year and outcome, which means this year in 2020, what the reports that we received that had, non-serious, life-threatening, hospitalized, disabled, and so on and so forth. And then it also looks by age group and sex, right, for that particular product. And then eventually, let's say I am looking at, let's say, demographic, and I am looking at reactions. I'm interested in specific reactions. I can select, let's say, these reactions, and I say, okay, for remdesivir and those 6 reactions, I want to see the listing of cases. And I can go here and then see the listing of all these cases, case IDs, and the products, the reactions, serious, outcomes, sex, and so on and so forth. From here, you would also know which reports were submitted by consumers or healthcare professionals. As we talked about, their direct reports. And then expedited reports would be that some reports that were reported by manufacturers too. Right? Now, within this, also, if you are interested in looking at, let's say, all the, if you want to look at all the serious ones, so you can select from here, look at the serious ones, and this cost goes to 1633. Within this, if you are interested in looking at only, let's say only where they were the outcome of died, right? So you can select this and then say, or say hospitalized, right? So okay, this is slightly so slow, so let's do. Okay, so then you could go here and select all of these, select this, and then you can you can filter them. So this is basically trying to show that all the filtering that you could do on this particular dashboard. Now this, as I said, it is to do with the emergency use authorization. Now, if you're interested in all different other kind of drugs, which are there after the entire database of all the products, you just go back to home, right, and go to the FAERS dashboard back, which then takes you to that first page, the first dashboard screen that I showed you, and this will then open up the FAERS public dashboard. And in here, you have the same features where you can basically search on a particular product and or a particular event, and up to 5 products, just because it's for the performance issues. Let's say, let's look for, we're looking at, let's say, atorvastatin calcium. So you look at, select that product, say go, and then this will then start looking at, get you all those cases for atorvastatin calcium. It lists you the name of the product, that search that you have done. If you select multiple products, it will give you by comma the next product, comma the next product. You can look by year, you can look by reaction. You can look by year and go to a specific year. You say, oh, I see this year 2014, there was a lot of cases. Maybe I'm interested in what happened in 2014. So I look at this, and then comes to that number of cases. I look at reaction. What are the top reaction in that 2014? Okay, this. So I could filter by that and get to that 3,934 cases. And then I could also look at reporter type, which mostly are consumers. Okay, now I want to look at the listing of these cases. So there's 3,934 cases that we have. Now from this, if you're interested to do an export of this, you can download this data, right? And this will actually then open, basically get an Excel file, and you can get that data in that Excel format. Where is it? Oh, it's probably opening on my other computer. But yeah, so this will open an Excel file on your computer. Again, some more things here is you have a disclaimer page. From here, you also can go and report a problem, which will take you to that page from where you can submit, a healthcare professional can submit a report. There is an FAQ page here, which gives you some questions about this particular dashboard. And then, of course, you have a site feedback. So if you want to give us some feedback about this site as to what, where, what it is, if you have any suggestions, you can submit that through our site feedback. So this is basically what we have for the FAERS public dashboard. So with that, I would unshare. Let me see. I need to unshare my screen. Okay. And let's get back into the slides where we go into the conclusion for this viewing of this adverse event data. So the FAERS dashboard gives the consumer healthcare professional, a more user-friendly platform for accessing the FAERS report. The FAERS dashboard makes adverse event data more accessible and transparent. And then two most important things, that existence of the report does not establish causation, and rate of occurrence cannot be established with FAERS.
All right. Thank you so much, Saranjan. This does conclude our presentation portion. If you have questions that we did not have time to address today, please email them to our Division of Drug Information email address at druginfo@fda.hhs.gov for assistance. The FDA appreciates your participation in this webinar, and we hope that you will join us again in the future. And again, if you have your phones out, please scan the QR codes on the slide. You can follow us on Twitter and also subscribe to our DDI listserv, as well as join our GADIS group on LinkedIn for Drug Information Specialist. And if you need more CEs for your license renewals this year, please check out our list of home study CE webinars at www.fda.gov/DDI webinars. You may also find additional free CE credits, such as FDA's drug regulation course titled FDA's Role in Public Health, Drug Efficacy, Safety, Quality, and Beyond on our CDER Learn website by entering CDER Learn in the search engine on fda.gov. Thank you all for attending, and please stay safe and healthy this summer. Take care.